What is going on, everyone? My name is Adam Adler with PragmaticWays.com, and in today's video we are going to be going over a pretty simple Java application that is going to be making an external HTTP request to get the current cryptocurrency price of a certain crypto coin. So let's go ahead, and before we even start diving into how we're going to do this here, I already have it coded up a little bit. Don't worry, we're going to be rebuilding it from the ground up, right from scratch. But I'm just going to give you a quick demo here of what this application looks like, what we will be building. So inside of IntelliJ, I'm going to go ahead and spin this up really quick. And it starts off as just a little command prompt type of application. It says, what coin price would you like to view? And gives us a couple different options here. Let's say Bitcoin, and I'll type in Bitcoin. And it says the current price of Bitcoin is 44,000 and that much dollars. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's say Dogecoin or Dogecoin, however you pronounce it. And that one is currently 10 cents. And let's go ahead and say Ethereum. And that one is about $2,000. And then we can go ahead and exit. I typed in exit wrong. So we have a little bit of validation here. Like if I were to type in Bitcoin, spell that one wrong, it says invalid coin. And then right here we say type exit to quit. If I were to actually type that properly, then it says goodbye and it closes our program for us. So that's what we're going to get into. All right, so without any further ado, let's just go ahead and start coding. I am using IntelliJ for this one here. So I'm going to go to File. We're going to go to New. Let's say new project here. All right, we want this to be a Maven project. We're going to be using Java. I'm going to call this if I can type here, Crypto Price Finder Demo. All right, and we'll go ahead and create it. Let's go ahead and create this in this window here. And there we go. We have our POM XML. If you're not familiar with Maven projects, this is really just kind of gonna give like the overall properties, the overall structure of our application. It's gonna list how it can list how we're gonna build it. It's gonna list any dependencies or maybe any other configuration information we might need for our Java project here. That's all gonna go inside the POM XML for a Maven project. We're not going to need this one right now. We'll open this file back up in a little while, but for right now, we can just go ahead and close this file. Give my workspace a little bit more room here. And we have it starts us off with a simple hello world project here. I'm just going to go ahead and run this just to make sure we do print hello world and gives us a nice ground to start working off of here. And there we go. We can see we properly print out hello world to the console here. So what I'm going to do first here is I'm going to sort of lay out the foundation, lay out the structure of what our application is actually going to look like and what it's going to do and everything else. All right, so first we are just going to print a menu so we can get a user input to get a coin, right? So get user input for coin type of price to find. All right. From there, what do we want to do? Now that we know what type of coin the user wants to find, well, now we need to actually go out and get that price. So we will probably use API here. So use API to find current price of the coin. Then we need to parse this data, get it something where our Java program can actually read. So parse the API response and get the price formatted as a currency string. All right. And then finally, really all we need to do then is just print that price to the screen. And then print price for user to see. All right, so that's pretty much all we're going to be doing in here. At a high level, it seems pretty simple, actually, and that's why I really like going through this type of thing before I start any project, just get a very high-level overview of all the high-level steps that we need to do, and then from there, each of these steps will be broken down into sub-steps and everything else, and that's just a proper way to sort of do some sort of system design is being able to break all the high-level components into their different steps and then dive deeper from there. All right, so let's just go ahead and get started then. First thing we need to do is print some sort of menu system here. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and I don't really like everything being inside of a static main, so really the main method of any Java program should really just sort of be like the bootloader, bootstrapping all of any configuration files you need, or setting up any sort of database connections and everything else. It's really just sort of like doing all the stuff needed to actually start up the project. And so with that, I'm going to try and delegate as much information out of main as I can. So really, first off, inside of the main method, I'm just going to go ahead and say start menu. All right, so in order to do that, we need to create this menu here. I'll let IntelliJ sort of automatically do that for me. All right. So to start the menu, what we're going to do here is I'm just going to print to the screen. I'm just going to say system.out.println. What do I want to print is what coin price would you like to see? All right, I'm going to duplicate this line here with the command D. I'm using Mac. In Windows, I can't remember the keyboard shortcut off the top of my head, but it should be very simple here. All I'm going to do is just give myself a couple lines here, make it very apparent that this is sort of the start of our menu system here. I'm going to go ahead and give myself a new line. All right. So now, what coin price would you like to see? I'll give myself a new line after here. And then I'm going to list out all the different coin types that we support right now, that our program will support, rather. So I'll say, I'm going to put this in a for loop, actually. I'm going to say for string coin type. I'll say all coin types. I know this list isn't created yet. We will go ahead and get to that in a moment here. And I'll just go ahead and say system.out.println. All right, let's give ourselves a tab, and then just the coin type. All right. And then we're going to need some sort of input here. So I'll say system.out.print. Instead of print line, I just want this one to be a print because I'm going to make it a little bit known that, hey, this is the line where you start typing for the user to understand. And now we need to receive this sort of input here. If you're a little bit new to programming or the software engineering field in general, honestly, there's a couple memes that float around every now and then that say, really, being a software developer is just knowing how to Google. And honestly, there's a pretty decent amount of truth to that. Like, I can't remember every single thing there is to be able to do inside Java. And I've been using Java in my professional career for about like 7 or 8 years now. So honestly, I tend to find myself using Google a lot to figure out how to do very simple tasks. So how do I get user input here? Well, I'm just going to go to Google and say Java get user input. And this type of, or this particular website is a pretty useful one I find a lot, w3schools.com. And look at that. They kind of give us some boilerplate code to use. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy that, paste it into my program here. And now I'm going to go ahead and clean a few things up. For me, it automatically imported this automatically just because of some setting I have inside IntelliJ, which is pretty easy to get to that. I'm going to go to the IntelliJ window, or the IntelliJ menu, go to Preferences. Over here in the search, I'm just going to search for import, type in enter, and then look at that. We go to Editor, General, Auto Import. I have add unambiguous imports on the fly. So that's why I did that. That was a pretty easy one to do. I also like to do optimize imports on the fly as well. So I'll just go ahead and apply that and click OK. And if you are in Eclipse, it should be something pretty similar to be able to automatically do this inside of Eclipse. Otherwise, if you don't have this or you don't care to do it, all you would need to do is just hover over it, because it's going to be a little red squiggly saying, hey, I don't know what that means. And you just hover over it and say auto import from Java util or something similar to that. All right, so let's go ahead and move on. I don't really want this to be instantiated every single time, because honestly, this scanner object is really never going to change. So what I'm going to do here right off the bat is I'm going to go ahead and highlight this. I'm going to right click. I'm going to say refactor and introduce a constant. All right, I will call it scanner, although I'm going to change that name of it in the beginning. And now it sort of erased it. It's like, hey, where did this go here? I can scroll up to the top, and I'll see IntelliJ automatically made this as a constant. It made it as a public. I'm going to protect that scope a little bit lower. I'm going to make this private instead. I'm also going to rename this. I'm going to right-click, refactor, go to rename, and I'm just going to call this scanner in instead. Just make it a little bit more verbose here. Scanner in, click enter, and there we go. We see it. We have one usage here. If I just click on that, it's going to drop me down to the where my usage is. And if you're new to IntelliJ, by the way, if you're using Eclipse, all these different shortcuts and everything else is really why I just tend to prefer IntelliJ over Eclipse. I'm going to be making another video soon, and if it's made by the time you're watching this video, I'll have a little hyperlink either in the description of this video or one of the cards at the top of this view here. And it's going to be basically just showing why I prefer IntelliJ over Eclipse. There's really a lot of benefit I find of using IntelliJ than Eclipse. I switched over I think about 2.5, maybe 3 years ago now, from Eclipse, and started using primarily only IntelliJ for all of my Java development, and I haven't looked back. I think IntelliJ is the far superior editor over Eclipse or NetBeans or anything else that you happen to be using Java development with. All right, anyways, without any further ado, let's keep on rolling here. So what are we saying now? We want to get the next line. We want to get the input here. So instead of username, I'm going to say actually, let's just go ahead and say it's going to be just our input here. All right, so our input is the next line. All right, now we don't really care to validate it. Really what we're going to be doing here, or sorry, we don't need to print it. Really what we're going to be doing here is validating it. All right, we want to make sure that it is a valid input type. If it's not, we want to sort of reprompt this menu here and say, hey, that's not a valid choice. We can only do these sort of valid choices here. Maybe you had a typo, or you're trying to do something that we don't support yet, or whatever else. So we're just going to go ahead and say if is coin type valid, and we'll pass out our input. Well, then from here, we can do something with it. Else, if it's not valid, that's the only case we care about right now. Else, if it's not valid, we are going to system.out.println, let the user know that it is not valid. So we'll say that coin type is not supported. Please try again, or something like that. You can change up the error message to however you want. And then really all we're going to do here is just start menu again. All right. We're kind of missing a few things here. We're missing this is coin type valid method, and we will create that in a bit here. We're also missing this all coin types list here, which is going to be the list of all the supported cryptocurrency coins that we can try and find prices for. All right, so first let's go ahead and create this. And like I said before, I kind of don't want to put too much logic inside the main method here. This is really just sort of the bootstrapping logic to help make our application run. So I'm going to create a brand new file here that's going to really do a lot of the logic of getting the cryptocurrency coins and parsing out the values and returning the string formatted currency value strings and everything else. So I'm going to go ahead, go over here, right click, let's create a new Java class. And I'll just call this our CryptoApi. We will isolate all of our logic inside of this new class here. So to start off with, I'm going to have a public static final list of strings here. And we will name this all coin types. This is going to equal new arrays.asList here. And what type of list crypto coins are we going to support? We're just going to make this one pretty basic. We'll go ahead and say Bitcoin. We'll say Ethereum, if I can spell that correctly. I think that's the right way to spell it. And then we'll also say Dogecoin or Dogecoin, however you think it's pronounced. I don't actually know, to be honest. And there we go. We have this list here now. So now we can go ahead and replace this here with our cryptocurrency API dot all coin types. And now it's going to go ahead and iterate through all those to show the user what type of coins we all support, whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Dogecoin. And now we want to validate this. I'm going to go ahead and hover over this red squiggly line here actually, and let IntelliJ create the method for me. And now this is going to return a Boolean, so really all we need to say is just CryptoApi.allCoinTypes.contains input. All right, so we're actually going to return this. So basically what this is saying is if the input is in this list here, then return true. Else it's going to return false. All right, we should notice that we could probably beef up our validation a little bit. We see all of these are in lowercase. What if the user accidentally has caps lock on? So let's just go ahead and automatically convert this to lowercase. So we're going to say scanner dot read next line dot to lowercase with the locale root automatically assigned to that. Just makes it a little bit safer, more defensive programming code for you. There, now we can guarantee that this input is always going to be in lowercase. That way, if they type Bitcoin in uppercase, it's automatically going to cast it to lowercase, and that way it's automatically going to be one of our supported lists here. All right. For this do something, we'll finish this later. For right now, we're just going to say system.out.println, and we're going to pretend ... checking price for, and list the coin type that we have. What is it? Input. We name that variable input. All right, so let's go ahead and actually run this program so far. Just make sure our menu system in itself is working correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and run, make sure we don't have any bugs. Very possible we do have bugs. And actually, yeah, I see this enter username. We should probably go ahead and delete that one here in a minute. Delete line 30. Give it a minute for this to fully run here. And again, we see the enter username here. We'll delete that in a minute here, but we'll go ahead and say Bitcoin and check in price for Bitcoin. And then the program finished. Let's go ahead. Let's delete this line here and rerun it. There we go. Let's say Dogecoin instead this time. Check in price for Dogecoin. Let's rerun it again. And let's do it with an invalid one this time. And let's say it is that. And we can say, hey, that coin is not supported. Please try again. What coin price would you like to see? And let's type in a valid one this time, Ethereum. And there we go, check in price for Ethereum. What I don't like about this menu system right now is it closes the application. It finishes the application for us every time we finish checking a price. What I would like to do instead is sort of repeat, give the user the option to sort of repeat that. Keep on going until the user wants to quit. For a lot of command line based type of applications, usually they allow you to type like Q or quit or X or exit or whatever else. So for this one, let's go ahead and after we print out all of the different coins that are supported, we'll also say system.out.println. We'll say type exit to quit. All right. And now when we get the input here, first thing we will do is we will say if, or actually, we'll say if input dot equals exit. So if they typed in exit, well then let's just go ahead and throw a new user requests exit exception. There we go. This isn't a real class, so let's go ahead and make it. We're gonna more actions. We're gonna create a new class here. Let's go ahead and create this class. We'll just create it in the main package here in our normal package. It extends throwable. Let's actually make it extend runtime exception. All right. And we really don't need to do anything. You can go ahead and put some custom messages in here or whatever else by extending the runtime exception class. But I'm just going to go ahead and leave it like that. And then inside of our start menu here, we'll go ahead and put this inside of a try catch. All right, try start menu. Go ahead and paste that. Catch our new user request exit exception. All right. And then we can just say, system.out.println, and we'll say something like goodbye. All right. And then here's where you would also do any sort of logic, like you do some type of logic like do normal shutdown logic. If you have any database connections, you'd probably want to close those and save off any state, or do anything else you need to do to properly shut down your application. In this simple application, we don't need to really do anything, so we'll just print goodbye. All right. We also need a way to sort of keep this repeating, right? So let's see here. We should actually probably do this in some sort of loop, some sort of while loop. And we will create a Boolean at the top of our application saying private static, not final, private static Boolean. We'll call this is application running. And actually, that's not going to be a constant. I'm going to do it lowercase here, lower camel case. Is application running. We will start that off as true here. All right. So now try this here. If the user requests exit, well, and then we'll say is application running equals false. And then we will try and put this whole start menu inside of a while loop here. So we'll say while is application running, then start menu. And then it'll keep on doing that over and over and over again until they say exit, to which case it'll pop outside of here and say goodbye. Let's go ahead and try to run this here, see if this doesn't throw any errors or any bugs that we weren't expecting. All right, let's say Bitcoin. There we go, checking the price for Bitcoin, and then it's gonna repeat. Let's say Bitcoin again, checking the price for Bitcoin, and repeat. You will say a random one. That doesn't exist. That coin is not supported. Please try again. We will say Dogecoin, checking the price for Dogecoin, and then repeats, and then we will exit. I typed in exit wrong there, as I normally tend to do. Let's retry that. Exit, and there we go. Goodbye, and our application closes. So our menu system seems to be working pretty well now. All right, let's sort of recap what we got going on here. We start the menu, or we start the main program. We can delete this hello world here. I always have some comments of what our structure is going to be doing here. And then we try to start the menu while the application is running. All right, somewhere inside of this, if the user wants to quit, they will throw a user request exit exception. We can do some normal shutdown logic or whatever else we need to do and just say goodbye. And then we go into the actual start menu. We print off the menu here. We try and get the user type that they want with the input. We just see if the user wants to exit, then we let them exit. Otherwise, we validate that it's correct, and then we need to actually do something with that, which we'll start doing in a little bit here. If it's invalid, we just make them redo it, and yeah, that's all we got going on here. So I think so far that satisfies the print a menu option for our applications. We can go ahead and get rid of that. We got the user input for the coin, or get user input for coin type of price defined. We actually did that as well. Look at that, already done with 2 steps. Now we need to use the API to find the current price of the coin. All right, so again, we're going to go ahead and delegate that to the CryptoApi class here. So inside of here, we're going to create a public. This is going to return a string, and this is going to be get current coin price. This is going to accept a string of a coin type, and there we go. I think the rest of our logic will live inside of here, so that is going to be these 2 options in here. All right, so we'll go ahead and comment inside of here of what we are going to do. For right now, I'm just going to return a dummy value, and let's just go ahead and say $1. All right, and then back inside main, now all we need to do is print that price. So what we are going to do then is do something with our logic here. Well, what do we want to do with it? We are going to create a CryptoApi. We're going to say CryptoApi equals new CryptoApi. because we don't need to create a new one of these every time this is run, we can actually go ahead and create this as some sort of constant here, some sort of dependency on our main application. We're going to go ahead and say private static final crypto API equals new crypto API. All right, and now with that crypto API, all we're going to do is say, we'll say string price equals crypto API dot get current coin price for the input for the coin type that we wanted, and then we can just print it. We will say instead we're going to say the current price of plus input is price. And there we go. Let's go ahead and run this now, and we should see for any of our three currently supported coin types, we should see $1. So let's go ahead and run this. All right, and we'll go ahead and say Bitcoin. Give ourselves a little bit more space here. The current price of Bitcoin is $1. Let's say Dogecoin, also $1. Ethereum, also $1. Random one, not supported, and exit to quit our application. There we go. We have our menu system up and running, and now we have this new Crypto API class, which is going to be handling the actual logic for us. So up until this point, sorry, it was kind of boring, just doing some normal mundane stuff of creating a menu option and getting some user input and routing it to the proper place that we want, actually do the proper HTTP logic that we want and everything else. So kind of a lot of building up the foundation. Now's the point where we can actually go and do some fun type of stuff here. So first thing we need to do is use an API to find the current price of the coin. All right. What I'm going to be using here is CoinCap API. It is a very simple API. It's also completely free, and the best part is you don't even need to sign up for an API token. So let's go ahead and see what this looks like here in action. They give us assets API here, which is what we're going to be using, and I have that looking like right here. All right, all we need to do is just get this using the internet, using a web browser. We're going to type in that into a browser. That's going to be a standard HTTP GET request, and it returns this huge list here. All right, if we look back at the API documentation, we can see there's a few different URL parameters. If you're not too familiar with URL parameters, basically all that means is we can put a question mark in here, and one of the options we can see was search. For instance, we see search right here. We notice that all of these different parameters are optional here, but the search one, example value could be Bitcoin, and really what it is search by asset ID, like Bitcoin or Ethereum or Dogecoin, or by the symbol. So in our case, we are going to be searching by the actual name. So if I type in Bitcoin, then I will see that data kind of shrunk a little bit. Now I'm only seeing data for Bitcoin. Or I could do Dogecoin, and I can see it shrunk a lot more. Or Ethereum, and I can see it shrunk a lot more. We could add more query parameters, like a limit, for instance. All right, again, this is optional. An example would look like 5, maximum limit of 2,000, or we could just do 1. So if I do Bitcoin, and in order to add more, I would use the ampersand, and limit equals 1. And I can see now it's just 1 Bitcoin here, 1 Bitcoin type. If I do 2, we could see I have 2 different Bitcoin prices. And why are they different? Let's see. If we look at the symbol here, well, we can see that this one is BTC, which is like actually Bitcoin. And this one is BCH, which is Bitcoin Cash. We can see the name here. This one is Bitcoin Cash. So they're just a little bit different flavor. They're actually technically different coins, but they're both of type Bitcoin coins. All right, so in our case, we are only really going to be caring about the actual Bitcoin, so we can just go ahead and do limit 1 here, and that's just going to give us a little bit easier, it's going to give us less data to work with, essentially. All right, so again, coming back to being a software engineer is really just being a good Googler. Well, how in the heck do we make some sort of HTTP request using Java? Well, I will go ahead and go over to our best friend of Google here, and I'm going to Google how to make a HTTP request in Java. And a lot of times you can come up to this amazing article here, or this amazing website here, which has a lot of different tutorials and articles on how to do different things in Java. I have this boilerplate code here that I'm going to go ahead and copy, paste it into my application, and change it up as I need. All right, so let's go ahead and paste that. That's not what I wanted. I don't think I copied that properly. Let's go ahead and make sure I Command C that or Control C that and paste that in properly. There we go. Again, IntelliJ automatically imported these for me. You might have to import them yourselves manually. I will go ahead over here and import this class as well. And this is probably saying it needs to be, yep, unhandled exception. So this needs to be inside of a try catch. So I will cut that and I'll put this inside of a try catch. Try this. Catch. I'm just going to catch a basic exception here. And then I'm just going to throw a new runtime exception. You can handle any proper exception handling as you see fit for this just little toy application here. We're just going to do some basic stuff. I forgot to put that one inside of there. And actually, this is going to be returning its own string here. So I no longer need this. And now what I'm actually going to do is, what do we need to do here? Okay, we need to, again, I don't need to recreate this one every single time. So I'm going to go ahead and create this as a constant up at the top of our class here. I'm going to say private final, actually private static final string, actually no, not string, private static final HTTP client, and this will be HTTP client. Let's go ahead and replace that variable down there. All right, let's go ahead and create our actual URI that we want. All right, so the URI, or the URL, however, that we are going to be using here is this one here. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that. Again, this can also be a static variable here inside of our class. So private static final string of, we will call this our CoinCap assets base API. And that is going to equal that here. What we do need though is the protocol in here. So actually we actually need to type in the HTTPS : // and then we can go ahead and type in the question mark automatically on here. Because if we, again, if you're familiar with URL APIs and stuff like that, if I just type in a question mark, as if I'm going to type in extra query parameters after here, it doesn't really matter. It's just going to, try and read any query parameters that we have. We don't have any, so I can type in with the question mark or without the question mark, and it's going to return the exact same data. So it doesn't hurt to just automatically add it in here right now. All right, and let's go ahead and use this now. And we're going to go ahead and say our URI, I'll call it a URI, equals a new URI. All right, and that is going to be of our string here. And I can just go ahead and replace this now with our URI. We're going to end up building this a little bit more in a bit here. But for right now, this should be enough to actually get our response. So I'm going to go ahead and put a breakpoint right here, and we're going to go ahead and debug this application now and just make sure that there are no errors, and we will go ahead and see what this response body actually looks like. All right, so let's go ahead and run this in debug mode. All right, we will go ahead and say Bitcoin. And there we go, we're right here. So if I open up if I put a watcher in here and I'll say response.body, what does this look like? Our result right here looks like this. And look at that, this is all the data that we have here. So we can properly fetch data from this API now, and it's getting returned as a string. All right, so that is really cool. Let's try and limit that data a little bit and get it only by the actual coin type. All right, so in order to do that, we are going to add some of those query parameters on here. So for instance, I'm going to have the search query param is going to equal, that's going to equal search equals plus the coin type. All right, let's go ahead and put a limit on there as well. So we'll say a string limit query param. That's going to equal limit equals 1. All right. And now I want to add all of these parameters onto here, onto our actual URI. So I'm going to say plus string.join. I'm going to join all of these by an ampersand. And then what do I want to join? I want to join these things here. So I need these in a list. So I'll just say arrays.asList. And this is going to be our search query param string as well as our limit query param string. All right. Give ourselves a little bit more room here. And there, that should be good for that. Let's go ahead and put it in the debugger again and see what that sort of looks like here. Just so you have a better idea of what our URI looks like and what our actual URL to get this URI is going to look like here. All right, this time if I type in Dogecoin, there we go. If we look at our URI now, we can see that it's getting that api.coincap.io.version2/assets/search equals Dogecoin and limit equals 1. All right. And then our response, again, if we were to put that same watcher on here, I would say response.body, type in enter. We can see our result here. There, it's a lot less data now because now we're only getting Dogecoin and we're only getting one coin from this API here. All right, so we can go ahead and close that now. Let's see, what do we need to do now? Now we have this data as a string, but we don't want it as a string. All right, we use the API to get the current price, but now we need to parse this API response and get the formatted price. All right, so one way we can do that is using ObjectMapper from Jackson. All right, so we're gonna have to add that dependency in here. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and Google search Jackson databind from the Maven repository, and it's gonna show us what dependency we need in here. If I were to click on the Maven from here, I'm just gonna go ahead and copy this dependency tag here, go back to our POM, and I'm going to have to create a section for dependencies, and then I can add our single dependency. All right, you might have some red errors in here. What you're going to need to do then is go over here, click on Maven, and you'll probably need to click on this reload all Maven project symbol. That way, IntelliJ knows to go and try and actually fetch this Maven dependency from the Maven repository to extract the jars, put it on your class path and everything else. That way our application can actually use this library here. All right. And you'll probably see it down in the bottom right-hand corner of saying, hey, it's loading all the Maven projects. Give it a minute or so so it can properly get the jar and so on and so forth. All right, so now that we have that in here, what do we need to do? We need to, what this class is going to do, by the way, is it is going to take a JSON string and convert it into a Java object for us. Because if we remember, we see that, look at our output here. This is really just a big giant JSON string here. We need to convert this into a Java object. So first thing we need to do is actually create a Java object that our response is going to get mapped into. Now, if you want to go ahead and take all the time to say, okay, well, this new Java class is going to have an ID, and it's going to have a rank and a symbol and so on and so forth. If you want to go ahead and manually do that, by all means, be my guest and go ahead and do that. I like to make my life a lot simpler, and I'm going to use some sort of online tool to do that for us. All right, so let's go ahead and add our search parameter back on here, and let's just say it's Bitcoin. I'm going to take this response, our expected response. I'm going to copy everything, and I'm going to go to some sort of JSON to Java POJO converter for us. And I just Googled that, and I happen to find this one here where I can paste in the JSON that I want. I can click convert, and it's going to create the Java class that is actually going to be needed for it. So these are all the different properties on that JSON that we're going to be needing. So for each individual, and again, if we look here, really our data here is returning a list. If we see this square bracket here, we know that it's really a list, which makes sense because if we were to put that limit back on there, we would say limit 1. Well, now it's just a list of 1. We can see from here to here is that entire list. And it also has this timestamp attribute here of the time that you requested that, that response. So that's why we see here this root class is really a list of all the different coin data that we need with the timestamp here. So I'm going to go ahead in my application, create 2 different classes here that will sort of hold and encapsulate all this different data. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is create the actual coin data itself. I'm going to copy all of these here, go back in my application. I'm going to bury these inside their own package here. I'm going to create a new package. I'll call it model. And then inside of this new model package, I'm going to create a class. I'm going to call this coin data. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and paste all those members in here. I don't like that they are all public here, so what I'm going to do instead is make these all private. All right, and now I'm going to let IntelliJ create all my setters and getters for these. I'm going to go to generate setter and getter. I'm going to select all of these and click OK. Let IntelliJ do its thing. I'm going to go ahead and create a new class here. And this is going to be the coin data list. And what this is going to do, again, I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste these here. Go back into my application and just paste them. I need to change this one here to our coin data. Array list, there we go. Automatically imported again. You might need to manually import that. And then again with these, I want these to be public here for proper encapsulation. And then I'm going to again let IntelliJ create these setters and getters for me. Select both of them, click enter, and there we go. All right, now back inside of our CryptoApi class here. We can see that this website here also gives us some example code of how to actually use this now. So I can go ahead and copy these 2 lines here. All right, instead of returning the actual response, what I'm going to do is say string response body equals our response here. I'm going to paste those 2 lines of code here. And now this is an object mapper. Again, I don't need to instantiate this every single time I run this method here. So I'm going to create this as a member field of this class instead. All right, so paste it up at the top, make this a private static final object mapper. Let's rename this as ObjectMapper. All right, let's go down here and replace this. It was named OMs, and I renamed it, so I need to rename it as ObjectMapper, make it a little bit more verbose here. All right, what this does, this ObjectMapper is going to read a value of a JSON string here. Well, our JSON string is just our response body, so I'm going to replace that here. And now it's looking for a data type, a class that is going to convert this response body into. Again, it was named originally root, given that original website that we used to generate this class here, and I renamed it to something that makes a little bit more sense of a coin data list. So I'm going to create it as this list here, coin data list. All right, so what is this actually saying now? So this is saying we are getting this response body. It should be of type JSON. It's going to be a JSON string essentially. And now we're saying, hey, Jackson's object mapper, I want you to read the value of this string, of this response body, which should be JSON, and I want you to convert it into this type of class here, which is a type of coin data list. And then you're just going to create that class here, naming it coin data list. All right. Again, let's go ahead and return our dummy value just so we can compile and test it really quick here. And we'll go ahead and say $1 again. Remove that breakpoint, put a breakpoint down here instead, and now we can view what this coin data list actually looks like. Let's go ahead and run this application back through the debugger mode. All right, there we go. Let's go ahead and look at Bitcoin. And we can see down here, we have our coin data list. If we open this up, we have a size 1, and we look at the data. We get the first element in that data. And look at that, we have all this data serialized into our actual object now, or deserialized into our actual object now. So we see the ID is Bitcoin, the symbol is BTC, and what we really care about is the price US dollars right here. We see that is a string of 44,000 and some change. So let's go ahead and actually parse the rest of it now. We can see we parse the API response, we did that. Now let's get the price formatted in a currency string. All right, so to do that, we are going to use the decimal format class. I'm gonna say private static final again. This is gonna be the decimal format. That's going to equal a new decimal format. And we want this format to be, we're gonna give it a number, or I mean the $ with a 0.00. All right, and let's see, I think I actually might have done that wrong here, instantiated that wrong. Let's see, how do we use a decimal format again? Again, being a good programmer is just knowing how to Google stuff. So Java decimal format. You can see I've been here before. Again, back to this website. Again, I'm telling you, they use a lot of really great, or they have a lot of really great articles for how to do a lot of simple stuff here. Let's see, new decimal format. That should be right. Let's see, what is it complaining about here? Oh, I didn't give it a name. That was silly. Let's see, we're gonna call this price format. That's what it's complaining about. You need to name your variables. All right, there we go. So now I have a new price format here. Let's see, all we really need to do now, first, again, this is a list, so let's get the single coin here. So I'm gonna say a coin data of, let's call it a first coin, equals our coin data list dot get our actual data, and then we're gonna just get the first index out of this one here. All right, so now we can just say our string of formatted price is going to equal our price format dot format our first coin dot get price USD. And let's just go ahead and return the formatted price. And that should be about it. Let's go ahead and run this program here. Let's see, what do you... Yep, local variable formatted price is redundant. And IntelliJ's want us to inline it. Let's just go ahead and do that. We're just going to say we can just return price format dot format the first coin dot get price USD. All right, so that actually might be it. Let's go ahead and run this program here, and let's test it out. Let's give ourselves a little bit more space up here. So let's go ahead and try and get the price of Bitcoin now, and let's see it actually work. All right, so we have an error here, and the reason we are getting this error actually, if we look, it's at it's being the runtime exception right here, and it's getting thrown from right here when we're trying to format this price, because this decimal format or format, it's really going to be looking for a double or some sort of decimal, but if we remember this get price USD, this is returning a string. It's returning the string of a double instead. So what we first need to do is parse this into a double here. So we're going to say double price USD equals, we're going to say double dot parse double, given the string of first coin dot get price USD. There we go. So now we have the price in USD. We should be able to format it now. Let's go ahead and paste that in there, and let's try and rerun this program now. And let's try that again. Let's see the price of Bitcoin. And there we go. I'd like to put a comma in there actually. So let's go ahead and go back to our formatter. let's say 0,00. That way we show it in the thousands. Let's go ahead and rerun this again now, just so it's a little bit easier to view. All right, one more time. Bitcoin. The current price of Bitcoin is 44,000 and some change. All right, let's look at Dogecoin. Current price of Dogecoin is just 10 cents. Let's see Ethereum. If I can spell. Current price of Ethereum is $2,000 and some cents. Let's type in some bogus one. Not supported, please try again. And we can exit. Goodbye. And there we go. That's the basis of what we have here. What should you do from here now? If you want to keep on extending this program, by all means, go right ahead. I would start by looking at the CoinCap API, seeing what other APIs they have, and start adding them back into this application here. Maybe you want to support more coins. Maybe you want to get different type of information. Again, we have this coin data class here, which has a whole bunch of different type of information on here. Maybe you want to sync this to some database and start saving these. And maybe you put this API on some sort of poll, like at the top of every hour, you get the data, and then print that data to some sort of chart and see a trend of the different prices at the given every hour. Or maybe you put this in sort of some web interface. You can make Java on the server and create some sort of web application to this. Or maybe use Java FX and make it a desktop application. You know, the options are really limitless. This is just a basic introduction on how to get a Java application to call out to some external API, making a GET request. So if you liked this video, if you found it helpful, please do hit that like button. Comment down below of what you liked about it. If you want to see more types of examples of fetching data from other free APIs, let me know in the comments below and we'll work it out from there. But until next time, happy coding.